Good evening to our viewers watching on television and those joining us online across our social media platforms. I am Adana Doric with the Tuesday, April 21st edition of the Guyana TV9 News. In the headlines tonight, we are ready to lead. President Ali signals PPPC takeover of Georgetown. 2 freed, 1 to face trial in deadly 2025 gas station bombing. Safety, not intimidation. Traffic chief calls for end to roadway hostility. Guyana defends indigenous land rights as key pillar of climate action. And CCJ holds Mohammed's extradition hearing. Court to decide if political bias can block U.S. transfer. Now for the news in depth. President Dr. Irfan Ali has declared the PPPC ready to take the reins of Georgetown, promising to replace municipal stagnation with a new era of accountability and urban renewal. Speaking at the Aubrey Barker Road commissioning, Ali framed the move as essential to bridging modern infrastructure. Ali framed the move as essential to bringing modern infrastructure and prosperity to the capital. Here is more.
President Ali signaled his desire for a PPPC-led city council, arguing that the capital requires stronger and more effective governance.
We are governing, and governance requires responsibility. It requires decision. It requires standing a firm ground. And I don't have the time to shift on sinking sand.
The president emphasized that his administration's approach to development is grounded in responsibility rather than political competition. He noted that the government is not engaging in politics with potholes or campaigning with congestion, but instead focusing on practical governance decisions, including the designation of key roads such as Aubrey Barker Road as public infrastructure to ensure proper maintenance. He further underscored that Georgetown's aspirations to become a leading Caribbean capital must be matched by modern infrastructure.
If Georgetown is to become the finest city in the Caribbean, then its infrastructure must match that ambition. A modern city cannot run on broken roads. A growing economy cannot move on yesterday's infrastructure. And yes, I'm interested in seeing a People's Progressive Party civic-led city council. I'm interested in seeing strong government, strong leadership at the city hall. So don't guess what I'm saying. Don't guess what I'm saying. My intentions are clear, and the intentions of the PP Civic is clear as ever. We want the chance to run this city because the city deserves better than what it has today. And it is time the people rise up and give the People's Progressive Party Civic that opportunity to lead the city and to continue to lead the city in progress, prosperity, and to deliver good governance for the people of Georgetown.
On the issue of drainage and long-standing urban challenges, President Ali reaffirmed that his administration is prepared to step in wherever necessary to address critical infrastructure concerns. He stressed that the government will continue working alongside residents to ensure that essential systems such as corkers and drainage networks are properly maintained, making clear that neglect and deterioration will not be allowed to continue unchecked. Minister of Public Works, Juan Edghill, reinforced the president's message, pointing to what he described as widespread and ongoing development across the capital under the PPPC administration. He rejected claims that Georgetown has been left behind, insisting that visible improvements across various parts of the city demonstrate consistent and deliberate investment in urban renewal. He further challenged criticisms directed at the government's record on city development, arguing that the results on the ground speak for themselves. Edghill maintained that residents are now able to clearly see the difference in approach and delivery, noting that the administration remains committed to expanding infrastructure works and strengthening partnerships with communities to sustain long-term progress across the city. Melanie Morris, GAN TV9 News.
In a major blow to the prosecution, a magistrate dismissed charges against 2 men accused in the deadly October 2025 gas station bombing on Monday, ruling the state failed to provide sufficient evidence. While 2 suspects walked free, a third was committed to stand trial, creating a significant fracture in the legal pursuit of justice for one of Guyana's most devastating attacks. More in this report. At the Lenora Magistrates Court, Principal Magistrate Alicia George upheld a no-case submission and discharged Guyanese nationals Wayne Correa, 44, and Ramesh Pramdew, 51. Their co-accused 33-year-old Venezuelan Jennifer Rodriguez was committed to stand trial after the court found sufficient evidence to proceed. The ruling followed paper committal proceedings in related matters tied to the October 26, 2025 bombing at the mobile service station in Georgetown. In dismissing the charges against Correa, Magistrate George said the prosecution failed to establish any link between his actions and a plan to commit terrorism. The court heard that Correa had been contacted by Venezuelan national Alexander Bentoncourt regarding a boat engine and later provided the contact of a taxi driver, Pramdew. Prosecutors pointed to inconsistency in Correa's account, including missing call records, but the magistrate ruled that the evidence did not support any interference of knowledge or intent. She found that at its highest, the case raised only suspicious and remained consistent with innocent conduct. A similar finding was made in relation to Pramdew. The court heard that the transported Bentoncourt and the alleged mastermind Daniel Alexander Ramirez Piodomo from Parica to a hotel assisted in the sale of gold and initially covered accommodations costs. However, Magistrate George ruled that there was no evidence Pramdew knew of any planned attack or intended to facilitate one. His actions, she said, were consistent with those of a service provider operating under normal circumstances. In contrast, the court found that the case against Rodriguez met the threshold required at this stage. Relying on a statement from Parmanan Prasad and a recorded interview dated October 28, 2025, the magistrate concluded there was evidence capable of supporting an interference that Rodriguez assisted Piodomo after the bombing while aware he was being sought by police. Rodriguez is expected to stand trial at the next sitting of the Demerara Criminal Assizes. More than 244 statements and exhibits were tendered during the proceedings. In a related development, Acting Chief Magistrate Fade Mogosti granted additional time for the defense in the main case to submit a proposal, as Piodomo continues to claim sole responsibility for the attack. The case stems from the explosion at the mobile service station at Regents and King Street, Georgetown, which killed 6-year-old Soraya Bourne and injured several others, including Jennifer Hooker, 27, Yvonne Jonas, 71, Cydia McIntosh, and 11-year-old Richard Lord. Adana Doric, Guyana TV9 News. A vessel owned by the Ghana Elections Commission GECOM struck the riverbank on Sunday evening near Marijuana in Region 1 while heading to Komaka with 9 passengers on board. The incident occurred around 19:15 hours under poor visibility due to rainfall. In a press statement, the Guyana Defense Force (GDF) said its Coast Guard responded promptly and evacuated the injured passengers. They were transported to Komaka and subsequently transferred to the Mabaruma Regional Hospital for medical attention. A follow-up assessment at about 6 hours on Monday confirmed that the vessel was extensively damaged by the fire, when its remains partially submerged due to high tide. GDF said the Coast Guard continues to assist authorities as investigation into the incident continue. We will be back after the short break. Stay tuned.
GECOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2026 and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. Persons eligible for registration must visit the GECOM registration office responsible for their area of residence to apply. Persons who are already registered could apply for a name change if they have changed their names since they were registered, apply for corrections if there is incorrect information on their national ID cards. Persons who are desirous of conducting any of the above transactions must provide the relevant supporting documents. Persons who are already registered must collect their new ID cards if they have not yet done so. This registration exercise will end on May 29, 2026. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at a different address than the one you were registered at. For more information, contact the GECOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy. GECOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. If you have moved to a new address since you were registered, you are required to update your address by applying for a transfer to ensure your address is accurate. Where to apply for a transfer? Visit the GCOM registration office responsible for your area of residence to apply for a transfer. When to apply for a transfer? You can apply to have your address updated during this national registration exercise. This registration exercise will end on May 29, 2026. The office hours for GCOM are: permanent registration offices open Monday to Thursdays from 8 to 12 hours and 13 to 16 hours 30, and on Fridays from 8 to 12 hours and 13 to 15 hours 30. The offices will be closed on weekends and holidays. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. You're watching Guyana TV9 News Bulletin. Traffic Chief Mahendra Singh is calling for a truce on the road, urging motorists to swap confrontation for cooperation during police stops. Amid rising tensions, Singh stressed that respectful dialogue rather than hostility is key to keeping the nation's roadways safe and orderly. Here's more. Singh noted a troubling pattern of aggressive behavior from some drivers after being lawfully stopped by traffic ranks. According to him, officers typically explain the reason for the stop, yet some motorists still respond with hostility rather than engaging constructively.
What we are seeing in the public domain also is that when drivers would have committed themselves in the view of a policeman in the traffic department, and he or she is stopped lawfully by that police rank, they seem to want to become aggressive and question the logic when they are already told on being stopped what they were stopped for, why they were stopped. Hearing them encouraging a driver when it is said by the police that an offense is committed, you will not comply alone, but there is a process or procedure to follow, wherefore you will contest what they are saying.
He emphasized that there are established procedures for motorists who disagree with an alleged offense. Rather than engaging in roadside disputes, drivers are encouraged to follow formal channels that allows both parties to be heard in a structured and impartial environment.
It's not to get into a situation where there will be conflict, or it will be you against us, or us against you. That's not necessary. So those steps that have to be followed reference when an offense is committed in the view of a police. For it to reach even the court, it has to be taken to a station level. It has to be brought to the attention of the supervisor in charge of the traffic department there, where both parties can be heard. That doesn't have any bias whether the matter will go to court or not.
The traffic chief outlined that matters typically progress to the station level, where supervisors review the circumstances and ensure that both the officer and the driver have an opportunity to present their accounts. This step, he stressed, is designed to eliminate bias before any decision is made about court proceedings. Singh also addressed common violations such as illegal window tinting, noting that enforcement actions are guided strictly by the law. He pointed out that drivers are often given ample time to correct such issues before charges are instituted, but failure to comply ultimately leaves officers with no choice but to proceed. He further warned against expecting preferential treatment, emphasizing that personal connections or affiliations will not influence enforcement decisions. He noted that police are obligated to act within the law without bias, and that fairness is built into every stage of the process, from the initial stop to any potential court proceedings. Adana Dor, Guyana TV9 News. A St. Lucian delegation is currently in Guyana to study its special education needs SEND model. Led by Minister Sean Edward, the group is examining Guyana's Leave No Child Behind strategy, focusing on specialized teacher training and the integration of students with disabilities into mainstream schools. The team is visiting facilities like the SEND Diagnostic Center to observe best practices in individualized learning. This exchange aims to help St. Lucia adopt Guyana's successful framework, supported by significant national funding to enhance its own inclusive education system. The Caribbean Court of Justice, CCJ, on Tuesday granted a stay of proceedings in the extradition case against Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed, effectively pausing their committal hearing in Guyana until the regional court decides on their final appeal. During the hearing, the court grappled with whether the Home Affairs Minister's decision to authorize the extradition was a mandatory administrative act or a discretionary move vulnerable to claims of political bias.
Leading the defense for the state, Senior Counsel Douglas Mendez made a forceful case that the decision by Home Affairs Minister Onish Walron was not optional but legally unavoidable. Mendez argued that under the doctrine of necessity, Walron was compelled to issue the authority to proceed once the extradition request from the United States was received. He stressed that even allegations of bias would not invalidate her decision since no alternative authority existed to lawfully take her place. The extradition request, filed in late October 2025, triggered immediate legal action, with proceedings commencing within 24 hours. The Mohammeds subsequently challenged the move in the local courts, but their efforts were rejected at both the High Court and Court of Appeal levels. Now before the CCJ, Mendez dismissed claims that another official could have stepped in, describing extradition as a critical executive function rooted in Guyana's obligations on the international stage. He told the court that such decisions go beyond routine administration involving diplomatic trust and treaty compliance between nations. Responding to concerns about the role of the Attorney General Anil Nandlal, Mendez maintained that his involvement was minimal and procedural, limited to offering legal guidance and assisting with documentation. He insisted there was no evidence of influence over the minister's decision-making. Mendez further argued that the bias claims lack substance, noting they are based on remarks made by other government figures, not on any conduct by Minister Walron herself. The regional court is currently considering an application for special leave to appeal, treating it as the main matter in the case. Meanwhile, extradition proceedings remain frozen following a temporary stay granted by the CCJ in March 2026 as the case continues to draw regional attention. Melly Morris, Guyana TV9 News.
We will be back after the short break. Stay tuned.
Want to place your death announcements and in memoriam messages on Channel 9? Call 592-761-5006, 710-5008, 600-5006. Or visit our office at Lot 85A Lamaha Street, Albertown, Georgetown, Century 21 Building.
Guyana, Channel 9 is now Guy TV9, proudly under new management. We're building stronger with a balanced and open platform for all advertisers. Whether you're promoting a business, service, or event, your message belongs right here. So choose your spot, news, primetime, or anytime, and reach viewers across Guyana. With affordable rates and professional service, Guy TV9 is your partner in progress. So visit us at Lot 21A, Lamaha Street, Georgetown, in the Century 21 building, or call 600-5006 or 761-5006. Guyana TV9. New leadership, fresh outlook, real results.
GCOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2026, and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. How to apply for registration? You must visit the GCOM registration office that is responsible for your area of residence to apply for registration, name change, or correction. You must have the following source documents as might be relevant: original birth certificate or valid Guyana passport for new registration, original marriage certificate and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by marriage, original deed poll and original birth certificate in the case of a name change by deed poll, original naturalization certificate and original birth certificate or valid passport in the case of naturalization. This registration exercise will end on May 29, 2026. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at a different address than the one you were registered at. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy. GCOM is currently conducting a national registration exercise. Who can register? Anyone who will be 14 years or older by June 30, 2026, and is a Guyanese citizen by birth, descent, naturalization, or is a citizen from a Commonwealth country living in Guyana for 1 year or more. It is the civic duty and legal responsibility of all Guyanese who meet the eligibility criteria to apply for registration. By so doing, you will be ensuring that you are issued a national identification card and be included in the official list of electors for future elections, provided you meet all eligibility criteria. This registration exercise will end on May 29, 2026. You need to apply for a transfer if you now live at a different address than the one you were registered at. For more information, contact the GCOM on 225-027729 or visit www.gcom.org.gy.
Welcome back. You're watching Guyana TV9 News Bulletin. At a global climate summit, Guyana delivered a blunt ultimatum. Saving the planet is impossible without empowering the indigenous communities who have guarded it for generations. Framing indigenous peoples as both the most vulnerable and the most vital, the government argued that global climate goals hinge on supporting the frontline, protectors of the land. Here's more.
Minister of Amerindian Affairs, Sarah Brown-Shadiq, told delegated Guyana's climate strategy is built on sustained partnership with indigenous communities, grounded in inclusion, consultation, and respect for rights, including free, prior, and informed consent. She highlighted that indigenous peoples make up 11% of Guyana's population and hold legal ownership over 16.4% of the nation's landmass rights enshrined under the Amerindian Act and aligned with the international principles on land recognition and self-determination. With more than 85% forest cover, Guyana maintains its status as a carbon-negative country despite its emerging oil industry. Officials say the low-carbon development strategy is positioning the country as a global model while placing indigenous stewardship at the center of environmental protection. A key pillar of that model is carbon finance. Brown-Shadiq detailed how revenue from carbon credits is being shared directly with indigenous communities.
We recognize that indigenous peoples are both at the front lines of the impacts of climate change and the solutions to address it. Our approach is therefore grounded in sustained engagement, inclusion, and respect for indigenous peoples' rights. Comprising 11% of Guyana's population, indigenous peoples legally own 16.4% of the country's landmass, absolute and forever. Further, the Amerindian Act codifies the process for the legal recognition of indigenous lands. Both are an explicit recognition of the principles enshrined in Articles 25 and 26.
She said these funds are transforming village life, financing community-led development plans that support ecotourism, agriculture, infrastructure, and small business growth. More than 200 indigenous and hinterland communities have already benefited, strengthening both local economies and cultural preservation. Minister Brown-Shadiq reaffirmed the government's long-term commitment to indigenous inclusion in climate-resilient efforts.
Chair, Guyana reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the full inclusion of indigenous people in strengthening climate resilience, while advancing sustainable livelihoods and safeguarding our natural environment for future generations.
Turning to regional news, in Jamaica, tragedy struck the Seaford Heights community Monday when a schoolyard dispute escalated into a fatal stabbing at the Morant Bay Transport Center, claiming the life of grade 9 student Kaylin Dowley. Police have since taken 3 suspects into custody, while the Ministry of Education has deployed trauma teams to support students and staff grappling with the senseless loss. Internationally, Japan's under Prime Minister Sine Takeshi has approved a historic shift allowing the export of lethal weapons abroad, ending decades of strict post-war restrictions. The move enables sales of military equipment like warships, missiles, and drones to align nations under tight controls. It marks a major transformation in Japan's defense policy and industry. Those are our major headlines for tonight's newscast. For more trending stories, follow us at our Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube platforms at GUI TV9. I'm Adana Dark. Thanks for watching.